Hey, what is going on, everyone? This is Greg, your co-host to the Grilling to Get Away podcast, and welcome back. I'm excited that you're here, and I'm excited for my guest today, Scott Crawford over at 301 Boys BBQ. Scott, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast.
Hey, I'm happy to be here, Greg, and I'm making sure I'm representing my burn pig gear here tonight. So
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, that's awesome. So Scott, man, I appreciate you being on the podcast, and you know, just for maybe our listeners and people watching, if they don't know who you are, why don't you just give us a little bit of background of who you are and what you do?
yeah, sure. My name's Scott Crawford, and I own 301 Boys BBQ Supply down in Johnsburg. We started about a year and a half ago, so we've been open, yeah, about a year and a half. So we carry basically any rubs, sauces, spices. We carry charcoal pellets. We recently just started carrying meat, and we carry Smoking Brothers pellet grills as well as PK grills now. So kind of a one-stop shop for all your barbecue needs down here in Northern Illinois and
Nice,
Southern
man.
Wisconsin.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know some people from Wisconsin cross the border to go down to check you out too. Um,
Absolutely.
so So yeah, man, that's awesome. So you started about a year and a half ago. Now you have an interesting story, kind of like ours, where you were kind of fed up doing what you were doing before, and then you got into barbecue and stuff. So why don't you talk a little bit more about that if you're okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my previous life, I was a police officer for 21 years, and after doing that for 20 plus years, I got a little bit disillusioned with it and decided it wasn't what I wanted to continue with. And I was at an age where I either had to kind of plod behind the beast in front of me, if you will, or kind of try to start something new. And I had been kind of looking into this business venture, and when I decided to retire, it was nothing more than a bunch of notes on a bunch of notepads. And I finally realized it could be a viable idea. I always got my barbecue supplies at either Ace or wherever I had at the grocery store, and realized that there was not a lot of reliability there with stock and consistency of products. So I started looking around for a barbecue supply store in the area, and there wasn't one. So I figured, why not me? And a year and a half later, here we are.
Yeah, no, that's great. So you retired from the police force, and then you started this thing. So what were you doing before? Like, were you barbecuing and grilling like in the backyard and just like thought like this was a passion of yours now that you wanted to start your own stuff?
Yeah, so absolutely. So I've been grilling a barbecue my whole life. I actually most of my childhood was spent on a cattle farm in central Indiana with my grandfather.
Uh,
So obviously raising your own Angus beef, we did a lot of outdoor cooking, and I kind of learned a lot from him. And I've been doing it since I was a kid. And just I'm just a backyard guy, like a lot of people. I've never been into culinary. I've never done competitions. I just like cooking good food for friends and family. And as a matter of fact, I didn't do it as much as I would like to with work and marriage and kids. And we have three kids, and I got a pellet grill about 3 years ago, and just the ease of use and the versatility, I really got into it, and I was doing it 5 to 6 times a week. And what happened is I couldn't find all the products I wanted or needed in one place all the time. So you know, here we are.
yeah, no, that's great. Like you saw a need in the area. What's the response been for you since you opened up?
The response has actually been overwhelming. I knew it was kind of a niche market. I knew there was a lot of people that were into this. I had absolutely no idea how big the hobby had gotten. After a year and a half, I'll be honest, we are where I thought we'd be after 5 to 7 years. So it just really took off.
Wow.
It's been nice to offer a wide variety of stuff. And not that I'm an expert, but I've cooked a lot of great barbecue, but I've cooked a lot of bad barbecue. My grandfather always taught me that the only way to make good barbecue is to make a lot of bad barbecue. So I'm happy to talk with people and share my insights, and especially what I learned from doing things the wrong way. So it's been nice to offer a wide selection and personalized service, and I
Hmm.
really kind of took off. And I think with the pandemic and everything being shut down for a while, and really the ease of use and versatility of the pellet grills, this market and this hobby really exploded. And people
Yeah,
invested in
that's
pellet grills. So
yeah. I mean, we've seen that as well. Like a lot of people are just getting into it. we go out to markets all the time. We hear people saying, "Hey, I just bought a Traeger, a Pit Boss, or this pellet grill." So yeah, definitely a lot of opportunity in this market right now. Um, I want to get back to like your customers and your conversations just in a minute, but what do you have in the backyard right now?
So right now I have a Rectech 590 and a Blackstone. I kind of had to tone down my arsenal a little bit. So the nice part is with those two things, I can do pretty much everything I need or want to do. The pellet grills are nice because they can smoke all the way down to 180 and go all the way up to 500 degrees. Then my Blackstone's great for all the other stuff I want to do, searing steaks, burgers, that kind of stuff. So that's really my arsenal at the moment. So
Yeah.
with the business and stuff, I don't cook as much as I'd really like to, but we do our best.
Yeah, it's interesting how that happens. It's like you're doing it all the time, and then you get into the business pieces of it, and you don't get to do as much as you'd like, but you're around it all the time, which is also inspiring. So you said the Rectech, you got the Blackstone. What made you get the Blackstone? I know a lot of people are getting them. What was your decision behind that?
So, the wife and kids love huge breakfast. So it's great for doing everything at once: your pancakes, your sausage, your bacon, your eggs all at once. Personally, I'm a big fan of cheesesteaks, and it makes it
Uh,
so easy to do the cheesesteaks on there. So those are really my two biggest reasons for getting it. But I've gotten into doing smash burgers, and like I said, the searing steaks. You can do high heat on there without causing the smoke detector to go off, and using the cast iron in the kitchen. And I've actually now I do all my frying on there, so I don't stink up the whole house. It's nice. You can actually put a half steam pan of oil right on the Blackstone and be able to fry right out there. So
yeah.
it's a great tool.
Mm. Well, that's awesome, man. I'm looking at those. I haven't bought one yet, but that's on the list. Like that's the top of the list is one of those things eventually. Because yeah, I mean, I just love seeing people cooking those breakfast foods on it, and I'm like, I just get so hungry every time I see it. Um, so that's awesome, man. You got the Rectech, you got the Blackstone. You grew up on a cattle farm. You've been around barbecue and grilling your whole life. Um, so I'm sure there's probably people listening to this or watching this podcast are kind of had a similar, scenario as you, where, they get into this hobby, they look around and all they can do is they can find the Ace Hardwares or whatever, not really a dedicated barbecue store. What was the first step for you to decide, like, once you made the decision, I'm going to start opening the store, what did you do after that?
So it was a lot of research, a lot of Facebook, a lot of Instagram, a lot of internet searches. Ordering a lot of products online to try them. Trying to narrow it down to the products I wanted to carry and that I trusted. So I would say the hard work was the research and development. That was actually the fun part because I got to eat a lot of good food. So it was months and months of 8 to 10 hour days just researching what was out there, finding what was good. And for me, no disrespect to the Walmarts or the Aces or the grocery stores, but I want to specialize and carry stuff that you're not going to find at a grocery store. It's more specialty, more higher quality, and just stuff you wouldn't normally find in your run of the mill Aldi or Meijer or
Mhm.
Walmart. So yeah, it was a lot of research and a lot of trial and error. I tried a lot of products and found a lot that were really good. I found a lot that not so much, but
Yeah.
about a third of the products we have now over the last year and a half have just come from customer suggestions.
Okay. So you started out, were you still working at this time while you were testing, or were you completely done with the police gig and
No,
you
no,
were just,
I about a year before I retired, I started coming up with this, and then once I retired, I really started putting you know a lot more time and energy towards it. So
okay. Yeah, so you planned ahead a little bit, about a year in advance, you started testing products and stuff. Um, what was the biggest surprise for you, as you were testing products, something that maybe stood out for you?
um, I the biggest surprise for me is how gracious and how great the people in barbecue are, especially people like you, the Malcolm Reeds, the Matt Pittmans, the Heath Riles. I thought it was going to be a challenge to set up wholesale accounts and be able to get these products, and it turned out it was quite the opposite. A lot of these guys, the personas you see on their podcasts and on their social media, is truly who they are. They're just great people. They were willing to step up and give me advice and help and kind of get me on the right track and get me set up. So I guess my biggest surprise was just how welcoming people in the barbecue community were to get everything here to be able to start a small family business.
Yeah, no, that's great. So you started with the rubs and the sauces. Did you add anything else in right away when you first opened the doors?
So when I first opened, I had rubs, sauces. I had some limited accessories, pellets and charcoal.
Okay.
Is what I really started with was just really the basics, and we've kind of expanded from there.
What kind of other stuff have you expanded into?
So the biggest thing for us has been the meat. We work with a few different high quality distributors, and we're able to bring good quality meat at a fairly reasonable price.
Okay.
We kind of split the difference as far as price between a grocery store and a butcher or meat shop, but the quality is as high as what you're going to get at any of those places. So the meat has been a big step for us. I have a hard time keeping it in stock, honestly. So
Yeah. So people can come into your shop as well, and then they can get the meat, they can get the seasoning, they can get the tools for it. You got just about everything for them.
got it all in one. So yeah, I mean they can get their pellets, their charcoal, their wood chunks or chips. They can get their meat, all the rubs they want. So yeah, really, we've really become kind of a one-stop shop.
Now you opened like really during the height of the I guess maybe coming down towards the end of maybe the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of supply chain issues with getting products and getting ingredients and stuff. Did you experience any of that with any of the suppliers that you work with?
Not to an extreme. A few here and there, and really, almost all the products I carry are made here in the States.
Hmm.
Really, the only issue we came was with bottles. Some of the companies were having trouble getting their bottles. A lot of them just temporarily changed their bottles. We the only supply chain issues we generally suffer are unfortunately with the pellets are a great example. A lot of times our small shops take the back seat to fill in the warehouses in the spring, but one of
Hmm.
those important lesson learned to stock up the pellets in January and February to make sure you're not fighting with the huge loads going out in March and April. So
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, you're already kind of starting to think about spring planning as a small business owner right now because you got to place those orders in so you can kind of get on the schedule for those supplies that you're going to need once it starts getting a little bit warmer. Even though we grill all year round and barbecue all year round here in the Midwest, but a lot of people do it a lot more during the warmer months. So I think that's good insight that a lot of people don't think about is like, hey, I should start probably planning now, see if there's deals and things going on for pellets so I can start using them.
yeah. Unfortunately, I learned that the hard way when I went to order this last spring and was told it would be 12 weeks to get a shipment in. So
Oh man.
the great part I found about this community and especially my customers is that they are very understanding.
Mhm.
If I don't have something, I say, I'll have it in 2 weeks. They come back in 2 weeks. So it's been, I couldn't ask for better customers than I've had at the store. I mean, it's just a great group of people. So
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's great, and I think it goes back to you saying like, hey, the barbecue community is usually a pretty generous and pretty understanding community. So, and I've seen that as well, just from the people I've dealt with, like yourself and other people. Um, so let's say a customer comes into your store, um, they just bought like a new pellet grill or a new grill, and they don't really know what to start. What are some questions that you're asking them so you can kind of help guide them, either in equipment or in flavor?
generally the first thing I ask them is what kind of pellets they're using. A
Hmm.
lot of the big companies will tell you, hey, you have to use our pellets and our grill, and sometimes those pellets are 2 to 3 times the price of what
Sure.
we carry. So I explain to them the difference in pellets and how certain brands are manufactured, and basically I just I sit down with them or talk to them and hey, what do you like to cook? Chicken, pork, beef. Believe it or not, I've tried everything in the store, and I won't lie to you and tell you I love everything because everybody's tastes are different. But I can, they're all quality products. So based on what someone likes to cook and what their taste profile is, generally I can give them 2 or 3 different selections for each type of protein to get started. And as they get started, they kind of fine tune their tastes. And The next time they come in, they may be like, hey, you gave me this rub, I really liked it, but it was a little sweet, and I can direct them to one that's a little more savory or backs off the sweet a little bit. So just like anything else, it's a trial and error, but it's a delicious and fun trial and error for sure.
Yeah, so like that's awesome. Like you're guiding them, and they come back again. Obviously, they trust you, give your feedback, and then you kind of guide them in a different direction if it didn't work out the first time. But I thought what was interesting what you said was about the pellets. So, we might have a lot of people that are listening to this podcast or watching that might have just bought one or thinking about it. So, would you explain to me a little bit more how you talk somebody through like the difference in pellets and that kind of stuff?
Sure, absolutely. So, there's a lot of pellet companies out there, and without naming any specific companies, obviously, there are companies out there that they will source their wood from sawmills.
Okay.
So, it's wood, it's real wood, it's quality wood. But the sawmill may today have alderwood sawdust or oak wood sawdust, and then what some of those companies do is then press that into pellets, and then to get hickory pellets, they then add hickory bark oil.
Mm.
So there are some brands where your bag of hickory, the chance that it has actual hickory in it may not be that great, depending on where they sourced from. I work with 3 different companies. I work with Lumberjack, Grillers Gold, four: Grillers Gold, Bear Mountain, and Smoking Brothers. And all 4 of those companies, what's on the bag is what's in the wood.
So it could be artificial as far as where they get their the sawdust or the pellets, but then they flavor it later. So just for those that might be looking into getting a pellet grill or buying pellets, kind of do a little bit of research on that stuff. And you can obviously ask Scott, go into the store or give him a call. But I think that's a good point to kind of know where your fuel is coming from.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
And in
And
most
then,
cases, the real wood pellets are actually significantly cheaper than the
mm,
flavored pellets, if you will. I always tell people that if a bag says flavored, you should definitely question it.
okay, that's a good tip. It's a good tip. If the bag says flavored, question where the flavor came from, do your research. But I would imagine, yeah, I mean, if it's real wood, like they don't have to do that extra step, so it's not going to be as, it's because of some of the cost out, right? So it's not going to be as expensive. So it might be a little cheaper. Um, so that's good. That's a good tip. And so they got the grill, they got the pellets, they got the flavor. Anything else that like a new griller might want to have that you recommend as far as equipment goes, or anything else?
I always recommend, a lot of these pellet grills especially have the built-in, Wi-Fi thermometers and the apps. And I found that some of the apps can sometimes they're great apps, they're very useful, but sometimes they crash or sometimes they don't send you the alerts that you set it for. So, I think it's important to have the first thing I tell people is if you can swing it, get yourself a good, you know, either an external or a Wi-Fi thermometer. And then the most important part is an instant read thermometer, because I've had a number of times where my meat probe that's hooked up to my grill says one thing, and based on doing this for quite some time, I know it's wrong. So it's important to have that instant read so you can at least double check what's going on in the grill.
Yeah, I mean that's what we hear a lot is instant read thermometers. So um, that's a great tip too. If you're starting out, if you need something, make sure you have that instant read just in case something happens. Um, okay, so and what's been like the biggest meat seller that you brought in meat, after you started? What's been the biggest seller that you've seen move pretty fast?
So recently, we just recently took on pork bellies. So we carry 12-pound pork bellies. We also carry tri-tips now. And
Mm.
the tri-tips, which are just such an underrated cut of beef. The tri-tips, I can't keep them in stock. I sell them almost as fast as I can get them. Matter of fact, when you were here, I think on Saturday, I got my shipment of 40. And
Hmm.
those are, I think I have maybe 8 left.
Oh,
So the tri-tips are, they've been big on the West Coast and California for a lot of years. And I think, through social media and all that, I think people are just now, in the Midwest and so on, realizing what a great cut of meat it is.
Yeah, and you can't find that a lot around here in the Midwest. So I think that's like when you said bring in unique products, like that's unique because in the Midwest we can't find tri-tip like you probably would if you were to go south or to the west a little bit more. So that's awesome. So tri-tips, pork belly,
The
anything.
the beef ribs are a huge seller too. So I don't sell them cut down into short ribs. So
Yeah,
you'll see on social media the dino bones. They're big in
the big,
Texas.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I sell the big monster dino bones intact. So they're definitely pricey, but
Mhm.
that is actually my favorite cut to smoke because it's like brisket point on a stick. It is
Yeah,
absolutely phenomenal.
yeah, yeah, brisket on a stick is a good way to put it. Like, yeah, that's kind of how you're cooking it, how you're flavoring it. So I mean, if you are in the Johnsburg area and you're looking for unique cuts of meat, go over to 301 Boys. So that brings me to how did you get your name?
So the 301 was my star number. And then me and my wife, I have three boys. So that's obviously where the boys came from. So
Okay.
you know, just trying to bring a little bit of the past into the present and future, hopefully. So yeah,
Okay.
that's where the name came from was my star number. So
Okay. Very nice. And then from a product perspective, what's been kind of your top seller or something like your customers come in and they really like and enjoy, and maybe they come in and buy it again. Um, do you have anything at top of mind that, customers really generally come in looking for?
I do. So the big names, the Malcolm Reed Killer Hog stuff, people
Mhm.
love it. It's a great product. It sells a lot. Meat Church Matt Pittman stuff is absolutely fantastic. Once
Mhm.
again, it sells a lot. I have a couple products. There's one from Smoky Okie called Okie Dust. It's kind
Okay.
of it's a great you can use it on pork and chicken, but it's a great all around rub. It's a little savory, a little sweet, but it's one of those rubs that actually a friend of mine turned me on to, and it's become our best seller. And it's not something you would normally find anywhere. They don't do a lot of social media. It's not in a lot of stores around here, and it's become my one of my best sellers. There's another one, same thing. He's a competition guy, and a friend of mine introduced me to him. We've since become friends, but his JDQ sweet rub and his JDQ spicy rub are just top of the line rubs and have become some of my best sellers. And once again, not something that your normal backyard guy like me would necessarily run into without coming into a store like this. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to offer like unique stuff you wouldn't normally come across.
That's great. And I think that just goes to show like you had an idea. You didn't want to be just run of the mill. You wanted to carry products that, you can't find, maybe at some of the local larger chains and shops. And you're getting feedback from people that are out there on the circuit, doing barbecuing, going all over the place and finding these. So I think that's awesome. You're bringing that to your town and people are finding those smaller products and using them and liking them. So that's great. Anything on any other products that you have as far as like sauces or like trends you see people are going towards, like, we get asked all the time, sugar free and all that kind of stuff. Are you seeing the same stuff?
Yeah, I'm seeing a little bit of the sugar free. People lately seem to like almost sweet with a kick or a bold. As a matter of fact, your QRF sauce is one I very frequently direct them to because I'm a
Right.
big fan of it. It has a nice bold flavor with a little bit of sweet kick to it, and
Mm.
um, so that's actually the sauces similar to your QRF seem to be very popular right
Okay. Well, it's good to know. I appreciate that feedback. Yeah, we've been seeing that as well. Um, okay, man. Well, um, I think we're coming to the end here. Have a few more minutes, but you know, from you have a very unique, and I think a lot of people will enjoy this conversation. But like, if you could go back to the beginning, your first starting out, your store, what would be a tip that you wish, or a tip you would give yourself if you could go back?
now. Honestly, I looking back, I don't know how much I would really change. I guess my only, we it took us about 2 or 3 months for people to even know we were here. So
Okay.
I'm guessing better use of the social media and word of mouth because I'll be honest, for the first month or two, there was days I was sitting back here wondering what kind of mistake I made. And really, we kind of took off with and they become friends of mine and they're regular customers. They came in here one Sunday and I was sitting back there. I'd only had one other customer, thinking, man, what did I do? And they took a few pictures of the store and posted it to a some community site. And from there, we just kind of took off. So I guess the biggest thing is just getting your name out there. You know, but other than that, it fortunately for me, everything I envisioned for the store, it's kind of become. I mean, I envisioned like the barbershop of BBQ Supply, and that's really what it's become. And I have plenty of customers that even if they don't need anything, they just come in to chat barbecue or got questions, and really that's kind of what I wanted from the store, and that's what it's become. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, that's great, man. And I saw that a little bit when I was down there over the weekend. People just popping in to say hi and chat a little bit. So yeah, like you, that's a good description. The barbecue or the barbershop of a barbecue, just community gathering place where people can come in and talk. So where can people find you, like socials and all that kind of stuff?
So we're on Facebook and Instagram under 301 Boys BBQ Supply. We're still working on the website. We don't do e-commerce. So as a one-man show, I always tell people, I'm like, if you like to support a small family business, it doesn't get any smaller or more family than us, or local. I'm a one-man show, and on weekends you'll usually find my boys in here helping out, and I live 7 minutes from the store. So we're our store's at 2420 Johnsburg Road in Johnsburg, almost right at the corner of Johnsburg Road and Spring Grove Road. And a lot of people know Halftime down here. We're basically across the street from Halftime. So
Okay, so if you want to go out and follow them, see what they're doing, watch them growing, I'll put the link to their social media pages in the show notes so people can find you. But you don't ship anywhere. They got to come to you, right? You don't.
right. There's as I found, there's a lot of great companies that do the e-commerce realm in the world of barbecue. And being such a small store, I can't really compete on shipping and volume. So, really my whole plan was to fill the void of the people like myself who I want to go in, I want to talk, I want to touch, I want to look, I want to walk out with my stuff. So, yeah, that's kind of the realm I'm in is the brick and mortar where you can come in and walk out with it today and you don't have to pay shipping costs.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a great point. For somebody that doesn't know or has questions about a product. I mean, like your store, you can go in, you can physically touch it, and maybe even taste it if you got some samplers out there, so they can get a feel for if they want to try that or not. So that's a great point. You have a personal, you know, you have somebody there that can help guide you, where you're not probably going to get that online. So that's awesome, man. And before we go, I asked this to just about everybody. What's aside from your grill and your smoker and all that kind of stuff, what's one piece of equipment that you can't live without?
Oh, geez. Um, I that's a hard one. That's a hard one. So, like I said, I think my instant read is probably my one thing that every time I'm cooking, it's always in my pocket or right next to the grill. Because like I said, the other probes can be off, and sometimes even as long as you've done it, sometimes just by look and feel, it's always good to have that. So I would say probably my instant read is my most important tool. Yeah, what, I say that in my gloves, so I do the knit gloves with the rubber gloves over it. So after a number of times of burning my hands, I think a good pair of gloves is a great tool to have. So
Yeah, and we hear that all the time too. A good instant read thermometer, good gloves, always a must if you are just getting started. So, um, Scott, man, I really appreciate you coming on to chat a little bit. I know this will be super helpful to a lot of people. Um, 301 Boys BBQ Supply down in Johnsburg, Illinois. Go check them out. Um, Anything else to add, man?
no, man, I appreciate you having me, Greg. It's been great. And, on a side note, as we talked about how the store developed, I wanted to thank you because in all those companies I reached out to before I even got started, you guys were actually the first ones to get back to me and set up accounts. So you guys were really my first product for the store. So I can't thank you enough. I appreciate that. And it's been a blast working with you guys. So thanks for having me on, man. It's been great.
Yeah, no problem, man. We always appreciate you and supporting local small businesses as well. So, it's been a great partnership, and we hope we can continue that going forward. And much success to you this holiday season. We know you guys are going to crush it, but go check them out. 301 Boys down in Johnsburg, Illinois. But again, appreciate you all listening and watching. And Scott, man, cheers. Have a good night.
Hey, happy holidays to you and everybody else, man. Take care.
That sounds good.
Bye.